Hey there, welcome back. Today we're working on a Honda XR70 head. This came off of a 2000. Um, our problem is the bike's smoking a ton trying to ride it, and it's just burning up a lot of oil. So we assume that the oil seals are bad on the valves. So we got to take this head apart. So first, I'm going to come in this side right here. This holds the cam in, and I punched on that with a piece of wood, a little wood dowel, and knocked it loose. And then I was able to pull this cam out right here. With the cam, it has a bearing on each side. You want to make sure both those bearings are good. And then you want to inspect these lobes. Make sure the lobes are all good and not worn out, which everything here is perfect. Next, I need to take the rocker arm covers off. I'll set those aside. Now I have a bolt that'll screw in to these holes, one here and one here. And inside those holes there's a pin that's holding these rocker arms in. So I'll just screw it in, and these should just come out easy. There's one. And there's number two. That's what the pins look like. They're threaded on one side. Now with those pins out, I can pull the rocker arms out. My number 72 is on the exhaust side, and my number 22 is on the intake side. So now the head is pretty bare. I just have to get these valves out. And in order to do that, I need a valve spring compressor tool to compress this spring down. On my valve spring compressor, it's important that I make sure that I use the right size valve spring tool here. If it's too small, it can be dangerous, and if it's too big, it can be dangerous. So what I do is I just kind of take them one by one and check them with how big the spring seat is. And this one's going to be too small. It's going to flop around everywhere. This size seems pretty good. It's about just inside the same size as this valve spring seat. And then this one is going to be too big. It's over the top of the whole thing. So now with this tool, I've got it on the spring, and it's key to make sure that this stays nice and straight going down. And also, it's very important that I keep this pin right on the center of that valve. And then I'm just going to twist this in and compress that spring slowly in order to get that spring out. And I'm going to do it nice and slowly with safety glasses on, because this is kind of dangerous. Now I've got a little magnetic pen to pull these keepers out. Not quite enough on the spring. There's one. And there's number 2. There's 2 of these for each valve. You can also do that with a screwdriver. Now I'm going to release this valve nice and slow, all the way out. Now if I start catching on anything, or it's not going easy, then I got to stop and figure out why. But right now everything's working the way it's supposed to. So there's a little top cap on this spring, and there's an outside spring and an inside spring. I'm just going to keep all that together. Here's the little top cap. This part goes down inside, and the flat part stays on the top. Now I take my finger and I can push this valve out. Now I need to do the same on this other side. Now with everything out, I'm going to go ahead and clean this up and get this nice and shiny again. There's a lot of carbon built up in here. Alright, I got this all cleaned up. I just used 2 really light bristled brushes and went to town on it. So now it's time to get the part out that we think is bad, and that's these valve seals right in here, that little brown piece. So to get those out, I'm just going to take some needle nose pliers, reach in here, grab a hold of the outside, and just wiggle and lift up. Same for the other side. There they are, the 2 old valve seals. Here's the 2 new valve seals. I'm simply just gonna oil these up with some motor oil and then install them. So I got them in a little cap of oil here. There's a little nipple down in this hole right here, and they just go over the little nipple. And then push them down all the way with my finger. That's it. I'll spin around to the other side. And just like that, the new valve seals are installed. Now it's time to put the valves back in. Little thing I like to do before I put the valves back in is I stick them in my drill gun like this, and then I like to spin the valve and watch and make sure it's not going crazy or anything. That way I know the valve's nice and straight and not gonna mess up on me when I put it back in. Both of these look good. Apply some oil to the valve. And then this is the bigger valve, which goes on the intake side. Slide it in nice and easy. Now I need my inner spring, my outer spring, and the top cap. Now I need to compress that and get my two little keepers in. And just like that, my two little keepers are into place in the middle, and that valve's in. Now I just need to do the same thing on this side. Alright, there we go. This one's back into place. And this one's back into place. It's looking good. Okay, now I need to put the rocker arms back in. So this flat side of the rocker arm is what goes on the cam. That needs to go on the inside. And this is what pushes down the valves, so this needs to go over top of the valve heads. Now I need to install the pins, making sure that the threaded side is out. I'm going to oil these up. So they slide into this hole. And then through the rocker arms. And then the other one, threaded side out, through the hole. Through the rocker arm. I'm going to use my bolt from earlier just to push it all the way in. Now I'm going to take my cam, I'm going to dip it in my oil on the bearing side. And then I'm going to dip the other bearing in the oil. Kind of spin those around a little bit, really get that oil in both bearings. And then the small bearing side goes down in. I want to make sure both of these points or cam lobes are faced down towards the cylinder, and that way they won't catch on the rocker arms. Then if you get it all lined up nice and straight, it'll just slide right into place. And there we go. That's a complete head, ready to install back into the bike. Obviously, after installation, I'm going to have to set my valve clearances to spec and my timing, and this bike should be running again in no time. And the smoky problem will be gone. Let's check it out. Okay, the rebuilt head is installed. Let's see what this thing can do. Perfect. Not smoking anymore. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button and hit the subscribe.